All right, so the last few days we have had the time to have all the hot takes, all the panic, all the whatever roller coaster ride you've been on since Sunday. We have had time to be on it and get off of it and focus on the game. So this is the Week 7 preview for the Browns versus the Broncos. It's going to be a very, very important game, a very, very key game for the Cleveland Browns game. And I would say a bit of a pivotal game to see which direction are they going to bounce back after an embarrassing Week 6 performance. So who leans in what direction, what benefits the Browns in this matchup, and do the Browns have a very good chance to win on Thursday Night Football? We'll talk about that, but before I get into that, I want to make sure you guys hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and ding that notification bell so you can watch all of my content when it comes out. Also, so you can be here for my live watch parties. Yes, there will be a live watch party for the Thursday Night Football game. Probably a post-game show as well. So if you want to check that out, make sure you're subscribed, make sure you're notified so you don't miss it. Also want to give a shout out to the patreon.com dog check tier members. And I'm going to start with Michael Matique, Cam Vex, Jaleel Salim Jr. and Sr., Caleb Pickering, Benjamin Woods, Michael Terry, Sam 28, Wani Boy, Rob Morehouse, Tyler Chiz, Michael Morales, Mark Kahn, Max Haymaker, Nick Merrick, D.A.J., Joe Hart, Gabriel Wilson, Fred Pat III, David Valtiar, Relentless Buck, Rex Kaufman, Kevin Johnson, Cleveland Cart, Matt H., Sign Sheets, Gemini, Leon Freeman, Fight 3074, Chunt, Yo-Yo, Matt Lloyd, Paul Wilcox, Hondo Magnifico, Kyle Stoffer, Lukey from Munich, Dave Roth, J Guy 101, Musty Taco, Brad Cowbo, Dylan W, James McGinley, Arendal, Chad Gimme, David Maldonado, Josh Spindor, Austin Rich, Mark M, Stuart Moore, Dylan Hill, Cleveland BCI, Robert Germain, Dave Mike May, Andrew Hirsch, Curtis Bayer, Batman, Barack Kumar, John Albert, Beerman 069, Masayua, Buds Roland, Mac House, Reeve Hertz, Philip Wilcoxon, Marie Vivert, Sean Barron, Goggles Pisano, Dom Gazzulo, Nick Nasty, Ian Whitaker, Colin 216, Christian, Dave Strong, Michael Stone, Soul Train, Billy, Moose Gentry, Austin Z, Mark Burnett II, Andre Griffin, Otis Wolf, Dog Pound Kai, Greg Ehlers, Austin Bolin, Lydia Mahawk, Alexander Davis, Chris Falms, Picktown Browns backer, Max Neelakenko, Max Al Dojo, and Water Bear Marketing. Again, guys, thank you so much for your support on Patreon. It does mean a ton to me. Now, let's talk about this matchup. Okay, so this matchup is interesting, right? Because the Browns and the Broncos have the same record. The Broncos and the Browns are both 3-3, but I think they're two different 3-3. The Browns have 3 wins versus 2 3-win teams and then 1 1-win team, while the Broncos, all 3 of their wins have been against 1-win teams. So I think that's something that kind of factors in when you look at strength of schedule and when you see the teams that have dominated the Broncos in the last couple of weeks. It kind of gives you hope if you're the Cleveland Browns. But also, another thing that's interesting about this matchup is just on a broad strokes looking at this, they seem to match up strength for strength when you look at it, right? The Browns have the 9th offense in points scored. The Denver Broncos have the 4th best defense in points allowed. The Browns defense is 23rd in the NFL in points allowed. The Denver Broncos offense, 21st in points scored. So they kind of match up in broad strokes, strength to strength, week to week, right? So that's something that's interesting to look at when you're just looking at this game from a broad perspective. But let's go down a little bit into the macro and talk about this Browns defense matchup versus the Broncos offense. Okay, so the good news this week is that Teddy Bridgewater is not at all the same type of quarterback that has really given this Browns back end of the secondary a ton of issues. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, the Browns seem to struggle against quarterbacks who can and will attack downfield, right? You look at the 3 quarterbacks that they have had issues with. It's Kyler Murray. It's Justin Herbert. It's Patrick Mahomes. These are guys who rank in the 90th percentile when it comes to their deep ball play. And then when you look at the quarterbacks who the Browns had good games against, it's Justin Fields, Kirk Cousins, who actually is good at attacking downfield, but the Browns got 32 pressures in that game, so it kind of stopped them from being able to attack downfield. And then you have Davis Mills. Obviously, Davis Mills is not a great downfield attacker. And Teddy Bridgewater, with the PFF grade of attacking downfield of 63.9, is more in line with Fields and Mills in that aspect. So that's good news, right? The quarterbacks who have been really good at pressing the ball downfield, really good at seeing things downfield, have really taken advantage of a lot of the miscommunication and blown coverages that the Cleveland Browns have had throughout the first 6 weeks. The ones who aren't, they tend to not take advantage of those things, and it's no coincidence that the defense looks a hell of a lot better when teams aren't able to attack downfield for one reason or the other. Obviously, that back end is a weakness for the Cleveland Browns at this moment. Is another thing with Teddy Bridgewater is that when you look at his passing chart, 49% of his attempts are in that short check down area of the field. So it's going to be 0 to 9. 49, that is a large percentage of passes. Teddy likes to check the ball down. That's kind of why he doesn't attack deep well, because one, he doesn't really see it, and he's not super accurate in attacking the field and when attacking downfield. If you ask anybody who used to have Teddy Bridgewater for any period of time, Carolina Panthers fans or even Vikings fans, that's something that always comes up when they're complaining about Teddy Bridgewater, is that he checks down to the detriment of the offense, to the point to where somebody could be wide open, but he won't pull the trigger. He'll check it down. So that's a good news item with Teddy Bridgewater, right? That he's not going to be somebody who is naturally inclined to attack downfield. Now, that doesn't mean that the Broncos have no threats there at wide receiver. They definitely do. They have some deep threats. Jerry Jeudy and Courtland Sutton, they're certainly deep threats. Jeudy ranks right now in the top 10 of all wide receivers this year in his performance versus zone coverages. And then when you look at Courtland Sutton, he's 11th in the NFL in 20-plus yard targets. Now, some of those targets are split between Drew Lock and Teddy Bridgewater. I don't know how much is with each quarterback. I didn't dig that deep into it. So some of this, or a lot of those targets, could be from Drew Lock, but still, Courtland Sutton, still a downfield threat. Another name to watch in this Denver Broncos wide receiving core is Tim Patrick, who has been excellent versus man. Watched him, or watched the Browns, or how the Broncos are going to try to get him matched up with somebody like a Troy Hill to kind of exploit that matchup. That might be something that comes up on third down for this team. Offensive line wise, the Broncos are average to below average. Not a bad offensive line, but they're not necessarily a great offensive line. They're certainly a better run blocking unit than they are a pass blocking unit, but they're not great in either area. They have two weak links right now, even though one might get filled because Garrett Bowles is coming back, but Glasgow, their guard, has definitely been a weak link. So expect the Browns to try to move Clowney and Miles kind of in tandem to take advantage of that, especially since Javonte Williams, one of the running backs, is actually a solid pass protector. So if you're the Browns, you're going to want to kind of either distract him or confuse him if he's back there, so you don't have a bunch of people chipping up on Myles Garrett so Myles can't get out there. So they're going to get creative with how they get to the quarterback this week. My biggest concerns right now for this Cleveland Browns defense is Jerry Jeudy, because Jerry Jeudy's good against the zone, and the Browns have done quite the job of forgetting key players in their zone coverages and having so many busted coverages that it's almost embarrassing. So, of course, Jerry Jeudy, how well he plays versus zones, he's going to be returning. He's also a deep threat. That's the kind of player that the Browns have been forgetting the last 3 weeks in coverage. I hope that doesn't happen this week. And also, how well would the Browns' intermediate pass defense hold up without their two best intermediate pass defenders in JOK and Malcolm Smith? You're going to have Anthony Walker out there more. You're going to have, Taki out there more. Mac Wilson. These are all guys who are not great in coverage. I'm interested to see what they will do to make up for that. If there is any week that you want to move John Johnson into the box a little bit more often than what you have been doing and kind of adjust who's going to be playing that free and strong side, this is probably the week to do it just because you're short at linebacker. You don't really have any of your good coverage linebackers, and you do have an excess of coverage like safeties, right? Troy Hill is a guy who's a good run defender, but not necessarily the greatest coverage corner in the world. And then also you have Ronnie Harrison, who's had his issues at that strong position. And then so is John Johnson, right? So all three of those guys have been play better closer to the football. Maybe this is a week to have those guys play more of a linebacker role, and then maybe you want to put Richard LeCounte and Grant Delpit, even though they're both very young and it's very terrifying, back there in just like kind of a limited safety role to make up for what you're going to be missing with linebacker. But either way, it's going to be interesting to see how they perform in that area, because I think they're capable of performing well there. It's just I'm not super confident with them not having JOK or Malcolm Smith, because those guys are really great in that area of the field. Now let's talk about the offense. Now, this Broncos defense is a interesting unit because they have great players and they have had some great performances, but some of these numbers match up pretty weird. Like, they really haven't had a great run defense game yet, but if you look at their run defense unit, they have some solid players. Alexander Johnson, Shelby Harris, and by the way, Alexander Johnson has not played or practiced yet this week. That's something to keep an eye on as far as recording this video goes. Shelby Harris and Justin Simmons are all like top 10 run defenders according to Pro Football Focus. They're very capable of getting a key play or getting a key stop. And with the Browns having a heavily battered run game, I'm talking about no tackles, none of your starting running backs, that's going to be something that's going to be interesting to watch. And this Broncos secondary is interesting, right? Because they are a good secondary, and they were a key part in how well this team played early in the year. I mean, they had 0 interceptions as a secondary, but they only gave up 26 points in 3 weeks. You fast forward to these next 3 weeks, right? The 3 games in a row that the Broncos lost. They have had 5 interceptions, but have given up 84 points. Now, part of that is because the offense not been performing well at all. Another part of that is because you can beat the Broncos defense deep. So that's going to be something interesting to watch, because if you look at how Baltimore and Pittsburgh attacked them, they attacked them deep, and then that opened up the run game. So the key to opening up this defense might be to attack them deep. Now, the Browns are capable of doing this theoretically, but again, you don't have your 2 starting tackles. You don't know which wide receivers you're going to have, and your quarterback has a completely torn left shoulder. Now, when he came back in the game after tearing it, his arm strength didn't seem to suffer to the point to where I don't feel like he can attack downfield. I feel confident that he can. Now, some of that might be because he had all that adrenaline from playing, but that's what we saw of Baker Mayfield when it came to him coming back in that game with that completely torn labrum and him being able to throw the football relatively well. I think Baker's issues, honestly, in that game weren't really him not being able to rip the ball. It was him not throwing the ball when he sees it open. Like, he would pat the ball, double pump, those things that kind of drove you crazy at the beginning of 2010. That's what Baker's doing again. So those are the issues that he had. I don't think the arm strength has been an issue. So theoretically, yes, they can attack downfield. But how much confidence is Kevin Stefanski going to have in calling deep shots with this offense when, one, he doesn't have the healthiest quarterback, he has a very unhealthy offensive line, and his wide receiving core is even unhealthy. So I don't know if they're going to attack them deep. They probably should. I don't see what else they can do here, given that the run game is also as battered as the offense, but it's not necessarily a guarantee, especially since the Denver Broncos have Von Miller. Now, Von Miller put a tweet out there, a quote, to say he's going to demolish the Browns tackle. We'll see. Von Miller has been a good player in the last few years he's played. So it's at 2021 and in 2019. He hasn't been Von Miller since about 2018, when you talk about like the best or one of the best edge players in all of football. We'll see which one shows up. I mean, this offensive line has had a good performance against Joey Bosa and then a very mediocre performance against J.J. Watt. So I don't know what they're going to do or what kind of performance is going to show up. I don't know which Von Miller's going to show up. We'll see. Like, they have to attack deep in this game, or they should attack deep in this game, but I understand if the confidence is not there for multiple reasons to attack deep, which is going to be very interesting to see how they go about it, because I do think attacking deep is going to be something they have to do in this game. But all in all, when I look at this game on both sides of the ball, this is a game the Browns should win. Is it a game the Browns are going to win by multiple points? I don't think so. Is it a game the Browns are going to blow somebody out on? No. Is this a game that's going to look really pretty and we're going to feel real good going into the 10-day mini bye? No. This is going to be a win, in my opinion, that's probably, if you can get it, because it's not a guarantee, that probably will smell like and taste like the Chicago game, given how banged up the offense is. But at this point, I'll take it. A win is a win at this point. And a win is a win, certainly, when you're talking about getting that win and then getting to your mini bye before you start to play the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Cincinnati Bengals and the Baltimore Ravens and everybody else on your schedule. The Broncos offense on paper is kind of like the Browns offense, right? It should be much better than they're performing, but they just haven't played well. So maybe they figure it out versus the Browns this week, but it wouldn't be a likely scenario. And again, the Browns, when it comes to them on the offensive side of the ball, theoretically, they can attack Denver's weakness, but it's not something for multiple injury concerns that you would have a ton of confidence in doing. But it might be something you have to do. So that's going to be interesting to watch there. This is a game ultimately where I think the defense is going to step up. I think they're going to get a ton of pressure. I think they're going to push Teddy Bridgewater behind the sticks. I think they're going to get sacks, hopefully a couple of turnovers, and really turn the tide here for this team. But then the offense could play complementary enough football. Look, I don't think this is going to be a high-scoring affair. This is going to be a ugly, grind-them-out type of football game, similar to the Chicago and Minnesota games. But it's a game that I think the Browns should win, given who they have available or who they might have available. But that's my thoughts on this game. Let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below. But again, guys, thank you for watching. Have a great day. Have a good night.